This is Let's Talk, getting to the root causes of important issues of the day, of the year, of the month, of the century. This on-the-air community forum believes your voice matters and welcomes all thoughts and views without judgment. Please, everyone listening today, please call in and join the conversation by calling 415-663-8492 or 8317. We have two lines. And when you call in, you will hear the lovely voice of Shelley Rugg,
Thanks,
who's
Paul.
on the board again today. And wait until you hear her say, "You're on the air," and then give us a first name, turn your radio down, and please keep the language clean on live radio. We're on the air live, and so will you be. So, governed by the FCC.
Yes, and what are we talking about today?
And it's just the two of us again, because everyone else is off
On
vacationing.
vacation, yes.
So it's Shelley Rugg, I'm Paul Raphael, and today
Yes.
we're talking about positivity.
Oh, lovely.
Yes, I'm very happy to say we're talking about positivity. And
Sweet.
why? Because I was reading an article. It's always that
Well, I'm
way.
glad you read, Paul.
Yeah, I do. And this is on undark.org. It's one of my favorite sites. And there's a little essay about what's wrong with positivity, because there's a branch of psychology called positive psychology, which was, started in the 50s, I guess, with Norman Vincent Peale, right? The power of positive thinking. Mm-hmm. But then it was brought to the fore in the 70s, I believe. See, I read the article and I can't remember a thing about it. But it was about, and positive psychology has been, there's a bit of controversy about it because it seems sort of Pollyanna-ish. It's like
you're not being realistic.
Should you disregard the negative emotions? And I'm not sure that that's actually how it is. It may have been that there were a lot of other people who kind of latched onto it and
or
said,
misinterpreted.
Yeah, don't worry, be happy, and just keep smiling. Everything will be fine. And disregard bad feelings. But as one of the wonderful, there was a TED Talk with a psychologist, Susan David, and she says that she's kind of anti-positive psychology as a field. So I guess I should explain why it's called positive psychology. Is because instead of studying mental illnesses and the bad things that happen to people and all that, it studies how the brain works while people are okay. When they're happy. And when they're
so that's what positive psychology means?
Yeah, they're studying how it affects human wellness, all that sort of stuff, how it affects health. And, of course, they're finding out that the more positive you are, the healthier you are, because there's less stress. But so Susan David, a psychologist, said being positive has become a new form of moral correctness. And that now she did a study of 70,000 people. 1/3 of those people studied judged themselves harshly for bad emotions like sadness, anger, grief. And they try to push them aside. Bad emotions.
Right.
There's this thing now of shaming kids for feeling negative emotions.
Really?
Normal, natural emotions are now seen as good or bad, but of course they're all inherently useful. This is her point, is that bad emotions, bad,
right,
whatever that means. Negative emotions, sadness and anger and fear and grief are part of living, right? And they're useful in learning how to navigate life as it goes along, and to try
Absolutely.
and be falsely positive in the teeth of terrible happenings prevents us from dealing with the world.
Right.
So she actually had a patient. I want my bad feelings to go away, and I don't want to try new things because I don't want to be disappointed. And she pointed out, well, these are goals that dead people have.
Oh, no. Okay.
Stress and discomfort are the price of admission to a meaningful life.
Wow. Yeah.
So, but...
I have to say, I suffer from judging my so-called negative emotions. Where the source of this judging comes from, I can't exactly pinpoint. But intellectually, I know better. I know that the reality is that as human beings, we're comprised of all sorts of goodness and badness, happiness and unhappiness, all of these things, and that our emotions exist to keep us safe and to provide guidance. And when we want to shut down what we perceive as a negative emotion, then we miss out on that guidance.
Yeah. Better to embrace the negative emotions.
I talked to a
negative
therapist once, and the way she put it was to be able to sit with your difficult emotions, is how she described it. And ever since I heard that sentence, it's really, really helped me a lot to be less reactive and less critical and more just observing, sitting with, and maybe even sleeping on, so that the next day I can see with clearer eyes exactly what's going on.
Yeah, there's of course a lot of articles about conquering negative thinking. Which in itself, conquering it, really. But in that very part of the paragraph of another article here, although the heading is conquer negative thinking, it says don't try to stop negative thoughts. Telling yourself I have to stop thinking about this only makes you think about it more. Instead, own your worries. When you're in a negative cycle, acknowledge it. I'm worrying about money, or I'm obsessing about problems at work, and you recognize it and take it in, you examine it for what it is, and then you move along.
Right. Self-validation.
So, and that in itself reminds me of something that my late partner Donna used to do. She was in chronic pain, and she learned early on from somebody, I've forgotten who taught it to her, but anyway, it was about holding the pain and seeing it, taking it as being there, noticing it, and acting like layers of an onion. Right? You peel it away until you get to the core of where the pain is. But you're not trying to fight it with everything you have. You just you have to kind of accept
Give into it.
Again, as it's like a negative emotion. It's part of
acceptance,
living and accepting it.
Right.
You do something about it. I mean, you try to get rid of it, but you don't muster all your energy against it just to make it go away. You accept it as what it is. It's a sign of something not working in your body. And I guess if we can call them negative emotions, it's a sign of being alive.
Right. It's part of this. It's a spectrum. It's a spectrum of emotions. And for some reason, we've identified, one half of the spectrum as bad, negative, the other half as positive. And when it's actually all part of one whole. And, so positive thinking, I think rather than thinking of it as sort of brushing aside any real threats or problems, it's more a way to focus attention on what you want to grow and develop, giving that attention rather than giving attention to the thing that's bringing you down. But still being able to sort of sit with those feelings, examine them, ask yourself, well, why? Rather than, oh my goodness, this is really hard to take. Yeah. Why am I feeling like this right now? What do I need to learn?
Of course, at this time,
Yes.
In the political era in which we all live, a lot of people are feeling kind of experiencing negative emotions a lot.
Hopelessness, depression, fear, anxiety.
Yeah.
Right.
And a lot of people I know, almost everyone I know, is complaining about every day. You turn on a screen or open a newspaper, and there it all is, all coming at you again. All this madness, out of our capital, and hopelessness and fear, and
how do we turn that around?
How do you turn it around?
Right.
That's what we'd like to know. What are your listeners? What are your techniques for staying positive in difficult times? I mean, we call this difficult, but really, here we are in West Marin. And we're all a bit worried about what's going on, but we are not in a concentration camp. And yet, even in concentration camps, there was the will to carry on because what?
Or people in jail.
Because they see there's a chance in the future that something good will happen.
Right.
All this will go away at some point, and then life will begin again.
Yeah, so you don't want to let go. So call in 415-663-8492 and help us out. Help us understand how to stay positive in the face of what feels like a barrage of the world falling apart around us rapidly.
Apart.
Oh, no.
All the work that was done on behalf of, for example, the environment seems to be...
And civil rights.
Being dismantled. Civil rights. Oh, dear.
Yeah, I would never have imagined this world we're living in right now at all. This is like some kind of crazy sci-fi novel. It's really hard to believe it's really happening sometimes.
Yeah. Maybe that's a way of dealing with it. Treat it as a bad dream, perhaps. But is an article. Scientists have found a disturbing link between suicide rates and climate change.
We have a caller.
The hotter it gets, the more people want to do themselves in. Apparently, those things change.
Yeah. All right, we have a caller. Caller, you're live on the air. Please state your name.
Sally.
Hi, Sally. Thanks for calling.
Sally.
Thank you for hosting this show. It's a challenging one. I think that what can help with these feelings of negativity or the the putting down of positivity as being unrealistic or Pollyanna-ish is that if we can find roots of empowerment. So if we can find self-empowerment and a collective empowerment when we're feeling hopeless or whatever it is we're feeling. And that's sort of, that's like one of the tributaries to positivity. I don't know if there's a good positivity and a bad positivity. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've been speaking about this. I noticed that every other person, maybe even more than that, is on antidepressants and anti-anxiety meds. And that really ties into a collective malaise that the country is suffering. And I do think it's got to do with overwhelming a sense of what can I possibly do? And the more we see the news cycle, it just, it's like
it piles up. Yeah.
On the other hand, maybe the ways to be more positive or to keep your sanity is to do some something that brings you joy and brings you back to nature or yourself or something, or family, whatever. I don't know.
Do you think?
What I'm even talking about?
Well, when you started talking about it, it made me think of the idea of the negative situation or the negative feelings that we might collectively, be sitting in. That possibly that could be a catalyst for us to come together to create the kind of world we want, to create the more positive experience that we're hoping to find.
I think so. I think, though, what happens is it depends on how you define your world, I think a lot of us, we're just completely obsessed with what's going on in our government, and what I personally see as just a vast, corrupt system that is really set up for corporations and for the very wealthy, and I that's where I have trouble accessing my positive thinking.
It's overwhelming.
That was my point about the overwhelm. Where I can access my positivity, I think, is in just doing what I feel brings me joy and may bring other people joy. Like, I have my radio shows, and I have I like to walk my dog in the hills and things like that. So some of it's personal, some of it is maybe radiates out a little more. I just think I don't see how this conversation can be separated out from what's happening in the world, and particularly in our country. I can't extract it.
Do you think that it's enough to focus on keeping our own personal world positive, living our best life for ourselves personally, or is there some kind of impetus to take it a little broader and try to actually make something better? I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud.
Yeah, no, I mean, going and I can't figure out if, like, the marches I've attended have been completely ineffectual, or I mean, and in a
it's hard to know what to do, right?
In a sense, it's impossible to gauge, because actually you could say these things are galvanizing. So you have this, you can say, I've attended this march, and even if 50 million terrible things happened the next day, as perpetrated by the very administration that we are protesting, you can still say, but we've been galvanized, and we can't say, because we didn't talk to the other million people who also marched, which one of them or how many of them will be moved to, say, run for office, or whatever it is, however it is they're going to become activated.
Yeah, well, those huge marches, unless they turn into, the big protests that are fired upon by police that's been happening in other countries, it's mostly about recharging, right? Recharging your batteries and being together with like-minded people, and suddenly realizing that there are hundreds of thousands of people just in your area that feel the same way you do is a boost to optimism, perhaps.
Yeah, and especially when it's a march where everyone flies in from somewhere or drives from somewhere. I mean, that's particularly heartening. But I have to say, having done that, I still grapple with oh dear, did it do any good?
Did it do any good? Well, it made headlines.
I think we can't know that it didn't. I think we assume think it's really safe to assume that it did, because I think people like to think that they know everything, or that everything that's knowable is concrete and in front of us. And really, there's a vast, unmeasurable universe of the unknowable or the invisible.
Mm-hmm.
That is energy and synchronicity. Those are some of the words we might give it, or God, or goddess, or serendipity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, or cause and effect, that we can't discern somehow.
Mm-hmm. So, well, that's a very good point. I mean, the ripples that go out just from, certainly from an event like that, like the Women's March, the ripples that go out can change a lot. It's just like when we did Bearing Witness out here, and naked words of peace lying on the ground at Love Field and elsewhere. What did it do, really? I don't know, but it certainly sent out ripples enough that people all over the world did it, and it was a way of getting words of peace, which were hard to come by back then in the second Bush era, into the headlines, just because naked bodies.
Naked bodies.
Yeah.
Now, all that being said, you still got the issue of the cold, hard reality of, subterfuge that's quite organized and has to do with things like, well, I'm just watching a movie now called Dark Money. Mm. You want to get smacked right down into,
oh, no.
How was I thinking positively? How did that happen? This film is coming to the Raffel Theater with the director who will be speaking. It's called Dark Money. Mm. And I'm hoping to interview the director also. But, this is tough stuff when you realize what you're up against.
Yeah, it's pretty daunting.
Really big and really bigger than all of us. And I think reading and watching these documentaries and keeping your critical thinking, or developing critical thinking, keeping all this at your fingertips.
Well, the president tells us,
educating yourself.
Yeah, the president just told us that everything that we read or see isn't true. So
it's not happening.
It's not really happening.
Or what's happening isn't true. Is that what he's saying?
Yeah.
Really in super crazy pants.
Well, yeah, classic gaslighting, right? At its most obvious and transparent.
Yeah, only he's no Charles Boyer, everybody. So forget it. I mean, at least with Charles Boyer, you've got like a dreamboat until he's proven to be like a complete
sociopath,
a cad.
Yes,
but and that's kind of the beauty of that movie. But it's right. So the fact that we're seeing unprecedentedly weird, boundary busting, sinking lower than we've ever seen before type of behavior, that absolutely nothing is seemingly being done about it.
Right.
Well, so
there's some people who are pleased with what's happening. See, and that's part of the problem is they actually like what's happening and feel good about it. So those of us who are on the other side really do need to kind of come together and create something that we really want.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and also
see it as an impetus for change, for actually doing something
and coming together.
I would argue that all this sort of vituperative stuff that's going on with people like calling the police on kids who are, like African American kids selling lemonade or whatever the heck is going on. That sure ain't positive thinking.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, seeing the worst in a whole group of people, in a whole race or in the other, is maybe the essence of negativity, and the greatest reason why we have to remain positive, even if people think we're being silly. Again, it goes back to defining positive.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some kind of perception that if you have a positive attitude that somehow you're not intelligent enough to see the truth. You know?
Oh, yeah, that's such a good point.
And then we've seen the rise of political satire. I mean, some of the most popular shows now are those that are treating all these terrible things happening with humor.
Yeah.
Is that a positive thing? I don't know. Is satire a positive thing?
Yeah, because it's cathartic in a way.
Laughing is positive, yeah.
Yeah,
it's healing.
I think it's good. And that's a fine old tradition. I mean, because it's communication, and it's one way to disseminate information.
Mm-hmm.
It's as old as, that goes way back. So, you go back to the political cartoons of,
Hogarth, yeah.
So that's important. I was trying to think of one specific artist, and of course, my brain isn't really working. But thank you for this topic and this show, and I will.
Good heavens!
Go
Thank you.
Away.
Thank you for calling in.
A lovely, positive day.
Yes.
I will.
Have a lovely day. The sun is shining down here, by the way. So
I will follow the sun. See those great philosophers, Lennon and McCartney. That's great. Okay.
Thank you, Sally.
Thanks for calling in.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, so
shall we do the station ID? Oh, wait.
Yeah, there you go.
Learning how to push buttons here.
Oh, yeah, let's do the station ID.
Yes, this is KWMR 90.5 in Point Reyes Station, 89.9 in Bolinas, 92.3 in the San Geronimo Valley. And you're listening to Let's Talk Call-In Radio. The numbers are 415-663-8492 or 8317. And KWMR is supported by our listener members and by Good Earth Natural Foods, providing organic foods since 1969 in Fairfax and Mill Valley. In both stores, they offer 100% organic produce, an organic deli, organic bakery, sustainable seafood, responsibly raised meat, and the largest selection of organic and biodynamic wines in the Bay Area. Online at genatural.com. KWMR is also supported by John Roach Services in Point Reyes Station. With over 20 years of experience in full-service farm and ranch repair, portable welding, material hauling, defensible space clearing, custom goat grazing, plus farm equipment and vehicle repair. John Roach Services is reachable at 707-696-1983. That's 707-696-1983. And KWMR is supported by our listener members and by the Maritime Radio Historical Society, working to preserve West Marin's rich radio heritage. The nation's last working Morse code coast station is in action every Saturday from 12 to 4 p.m. at the RCA receiver site, 17400 Sir Francis Drake Boulevard, just past G Ranch on the Point Reyes Peninsula. Information at 415-663-8982 or online at radiomarine.org. That's radio, MARINE.org. And back to Let's Talk Call-In Radio with myself, Shelley Rugg, and Paul Raffel. And we'd love for you to call in, 415-663-8492, and tell us how you stay positive in the face of a rapidly changing world.
You got to laugh, ain't you? You know, got to laugh.
I love to laugh.
So, yes, positive thinking, positivity. How do you What is your personal technique for finding that? Do you is meditation a key for that? Is yoga? Is exercise? Is all that? Any of that? All alternatives to antidepressants, and they all work in their own way.
Right.
And it brought up while I was thinking about positivity and how people's lives change. We all start out feeling fairly positive, I'm guessing, about life, and then we gradually. And it brought back when I was studying French in high school, Candide, Voltaire's Candide, where he's taught by his mentor Pangloss, in the little paradise that they live in, that everything's fine and everything is the best of worlds. This is the best of times in the best of worlds, and we have a beneficent God, and therefore how can it be anything else? That everything is fine. And then he leaves that little paradisical spot and he goes out into the world and is gradually more and more disillusioned. It's a wonderful story, and it was written by Voltaire because of there was a philosopher, writer called Leibniz, who was all about that. He was all about the bad things that happen to you happen because God wills them to, therefore everything's fine, so don't worry about it, which I thought was, is that line 2?
It looks like line 2.
Yeah,
You've got a caller.
Hey.
Caller, you are on the air. Please tell us your name.
It's Krita.
Krita.
Hello, welcome to the radio.
Welcome to the radio to you, too.
Thank you.
And Euripides does look a lot like Paul Russell.
Oh, okay.
If he hasn't seen that post yet, dear Sally put it on.
I have seen it. I think Euripides looks better than me. I don't know.
So I stay positive by gardening, dogs, and doing what I want.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Good.
Anytime I want.
So you don't feel guilty that you're not doing enough to make the world a better place or anything like that?
Hell no. I think I do quite a bit that's in my nature to help people and right wrongs. But, sometimes my rights might be somebody else's wrong and vice versa. So you got to feel your way through it and see what the bright side is for everybody that's in your sphere.
Right.
All right. Do you struggle with negative emotions at all, or do you...
oh, God, yes.
You have the techniques to overcome them?
Hate can be prevalent, can it? If you let it.
I think anger is certainly a tool, an impetus for action, that kind of stuff. Fear is always an impetus for action, like, get out of there.
And anxiety.
Exactly, yeah. Well, you had, as I recall, you had some years of training in meditation, etc. So
in fear management, you mean?
Tell us about that.
Well,
Well, fear. I guess fear of dying, and so you figure out what you're going to do to cope with that, and so. That's the big question, right? I mean, people like Trump, they come and go.
All right.
So we just have to wait for him to go and deal with it the best way we can, I guess.
They come and go in our own short lifetimes.
Right.
We thought Bush was bad, as I recall.
I
I
know.
I guess there's, for me, I kind of have this feeling like, is there irreparable damage being caused right now? It's scary.
Well, and I'm probably going to get in a whole lot of trouble saying this, but there are good things to concentrate on, too.
Yes.
And, what? It doesn't come to mind right now. Everybody's got some kind of a good side. I mean, they can't all be completely evil.
Right.
Right. Just like I can't be completely evil, although some people think I am.
You're working on it, are you?
Yeah, I'm working on it. Give me a couple more years. I'll corroborate that statement. But So I guess what I'm trying to say is I try to concentrate on the good stuff and make that more of a shine through.
Speaking of good stuff.
There's those doggies.
Well, speaking of which, my dogs don't think that one of the people pulling up is the good stuff, but whatever. And I think that's the way to get through it, is just to be positive, pay attention, do what you can do in the sphere that you're in to make life better for those around you and yourself, and that's it.
There you go. Well, that's a good technique, and don't try to ignore things. Do what you can.
Oh,
that's
God,
the important
no.
thing. Yeah, right.
I mean, you can't stick your head in the sand.
Right.
We're not ostriches, not all of us.
Right. Very good.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for calling in.
For letting me chime in.
Thank you, Greta. Thanks for calling. That's wonderful.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, if you'd like to call in and add your voice to the conversation, the number is 415-663-8492, and we're talking about positivity.
Positivity. Where is it? What does it look like? Where can we find it? How do I get some? So,
yes, I mentioned this to some of my friends last night, and they said, "Oh, well, dancing."
Dancing, yes, of course. Right.
And which I think could tie into also yoga. You know, anything that brings you into your body. Some people call it coming home, you know, so that you're not focused outside of yourself and on things that you really can't control, and that you can remember, oh, this is what it feels like to be me and enjoy.
Right.
You know.
Right. Well, it's some people would say you're losing yourself in the music or whatever, but you're actually
finding yourself
in the music, enjoying yourself. Well, it's enjoyable, isn't it? I mean, not especially enjoyable for me because I don't dance all that well, but I have a body that doesn't move that well. But
how does it feel when you move, even if it doesn't?
It's good. Yeah. I can wiggle.
If you were by yourself, would you ever dance?
I'd wiggle. I used to call it kelping.
This wiggle in my mind.
I used to call it kelping. You're just kind of swaying. My feet don't move all that well, so I'm kind of like bull kelp, just swaying in the current,
in the breeze, in the current.
Right. That's my form of dance, but that's good.
Yeah,
I enjoy that.
It's a start.
I enjoy music, so that's and music is always a getaway. Is always a refuge from sadness and anger and loneliness and there is, after all, this is from the first article I read, there is mounting evidence that positive emotions are associated with a host of beneficial outcomes, including better health and longer life. In my research, our goal is to help people learn ways to experience more positive emotion on a daily basis, even when life is stressful, not banishing negative experiences or emotions. Our research shows that even under serious stress, people can and do experience positive emotions alongside the negative, and these are associated with better adjustment in the face of the stress. This is at a lab in, I don't know, Harvard, I think. And
having some kind of coping skills when you're up against the difficult emotions.
Well, so I'm guessing that there are automatic little systems in our heads, in our brains, and in our bodies that are all about coping with that. And how can you, God, if you were negative all the time, 24 hours a day. If you felt negative, I mean, really, well, I guess that's what a lot of people are feeling, though. There's a lot of, the suicide rates are climbing. Let's put it that way. So there's the deep pit, right, of depression and suicidal thoughts.
It is really overwhelming when you look at the big picture whole of the situation right now. It's not just things happening in America, it's happening globally. And that's, I think, what scares me the most and is so overwhelming. And so I think, coming back to, where you live, your home, your body, that's one thing that you can tap into. The other being, really making sure that the community that you live in is in its best possible expression. And if not, how can you bring some positivity to the situation? I guess that's the thing, is when facing the so-called negative emotions or experiences, then stopping, accepting those emotions, observing them, but then, okay, how can I move through this towards a better experience? Yeah. How can I learn something from this that's going to make my life better ultimately?
Recognize that you're having those negative thoughts, tough emotions, and that there's a reason for it, and and taking that as a way forward. Maybe thinking your way around a situation instead of wallowing in it too much.
Yeah, not just purely accepting, oh, well, this is how it is, but noticing, okay, I'm feeling this way for a reason. What is it? And start a dialogue with yourself to really understand what's going on and what you need to do, because the negative emotions generally are there to help us do something. Fight or flight, right? Yeah. Do we do something to better the situation, or do we just throw our hands in the air and go the other way?
Let the tiger eat me. I can't do anything about it. It's too big and strong for me. I'll just lie down here.
And just give in.
Yes, of course. Because there are, as you said at the beginning, it's a gray scale. It's a scale from black to white or green to red, whatever. Mm-hmm. It can't all be positive. It can't all be negative. And both coexist, and that is life. I mean...
Yeah, and I mean, I understand the position of people saying, oh, you're being Pollyanna, you're seeing the world with rose-colored glasses, you're not being realistic, but I don't think that's the same as positivity, where you're trying to turn it around, where you're trying to make something better come out of something. You're not just acting like, oh, it's not really that bad, it'll be fine. It's more, how can I turn this around?
Yeah. Well, that was for a long time. It was terrible things happened. In fact, let me just say, back to Candide again. That was written after there was this huge earthquake off Lisbon, which created a tsunami, and then the city caught fire. It was, wow. It was a terrible, terrible thing that happened there, and lots of people died. And Leibniz said, "Oh well, it's God's will, things like this happen, but it must be for the best." And so, that religious crutch has been there for centuries, in that, oh well, everything's fine. And and of course there was the blaming the victim. If you're having a hard time, it's probably your fault.
You deserve it.
It's probably God's punishment for something you've done.
Right.
But we're moving beyond that sort of religious strictures now, aren't we? Aren't we? I think so. I think even the...
Unless you're...
The Bible thumpers, as I like to call them. That's not meant as a criticism. But even, I think that's changing a lot. There's such a minority now of people who think that way. And then... here's another reason for trying to feel positive today. We watched the last 2 episodes of The Handmaid's Tale last night.
Oh no, I haven't gotten into that one.
And that is a challenge. It is a challenge to remain positive and hopeful, even though we know it's just a show and it's just a book and it's just an idea, and it also feels like a warning, because you can see that
too close to home.
Yeah. It creates that fear, and that's why it's so popular, of course, because it's a great marketing ploy. But and how to prevent that from happening. Yes. Well, rather than insisting on constant positivity in the face of life's big and small challenges and expecting to be happy, the solution may instead to find a few things you can do to bring more positive emotion into your daily life. Savoring a beautiful spring day or a summer's day like this out there, lovely, paying for the coffee of the stranger behind you in line, doing little things for people in your community or helping, volunteering, all that. All helps with better self.
It connects us with humanity.
Yeah.
Each other. It strengthens us when we can see that we're more alike than different.
Well, now that is huge. Yes.
Yeah. Perception, we experience our own perceptions of others that may or may not be accurate, and it comes right back at us all the time.
That is a very good point.
Well, thank you.
That's an excellent thing. Yeah, when you realize that we are more alike than different. Even men and women, between men and women, we're more alike than we are different, actually. And
we all have our insecurities.
Yeah, and it's a good thing to recognize that when you're in public situations among strangers, that you don't come to snap judgments and act on them or react to those snap judgments that you're making about someone that you don't even know. And it helps connect with people like, as I always say, the checkout people at the supermarket. You engage in a little conversation while they're beeping away, and just help them remember that they're actually human beings and that we're all human beings and we're all here. Yes.
Yeah.
That's a great help, I think, and because we tend to take all the troubles of the world on our own shoulders because we're the ones who are feeling these negative emotions, and so we think that we're alone in them. Oh, no.
No.
No matter what you think or you believe, there are other people who think and believe exactly the same way.
Yes, this is true. And we have a caller on line 1. Caller, you're on the air. Tell us your name.
And watch my language?
Of course.
Please.
Okay.
Keep it English.
This is David calling.
David.
And I'm sorry, I don't have much to offer about positivity about, a lot of what you've been talking about. But on a personal level, and for a lot of us, I see so many people walking around with new knees, shoulders, hips, etc. And I wear eyeglasses. There are all kinds of things that allow us to live more comfortably longer than there have ever been, and it at least keeps some negative feelings about this latest pain or this latest discomfort, illness, that you don't have to feel that bad about it because there's a medical fix for it.
That's true. Another negative experience is being helped more these days. There are more ways to fix pain, chronic pain like that.
We have chronic pain of many different sorts.
Yeah.
And there are antidepressants, which I have had some experience with and haven't liked because of side effects, but I find that marijuana is as good an antidepressant as there is. And it doesn't necessarily make me want to get plugged more into going out and, getting on a phone bank or writing letters or anything like that, but at least it enables me to function in a much more positive way.
Yeah. The healing power of the herb. Yeah, well, thank goodness it's more freely available now, and at least people can try all kinds of products made with it to find out the benefits of it, because it is truly very beneficial in some ways.
Yeah, there's that, but just in general, medical advances for people in this country and in West more elite societies, that kind of stuff is really quite amazing and allows us to be negative longer.
Good.
Oh, boy, what a gift.
Yes.
Yeah.
Keeps on giving.
Whoopee, yeah.
No, that's a very good point, though, because, yes, as we are aging, we're all getting the aches and pains and systems that are breaking down, and it certainly doesn't help to feel positive when that's happening.
Yeah. And I'm going to go because another broadcaster from KWMR has just walked into my shop. So, but thank you very much for the program.
Watch out for shoplifters. You know how those KWMR people are.
Right, I will watch out for shoplifters. Thank you.
Thanks for calling in.
Right,
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Give yourself a break. Do you treat yourself as well as you treat your friends and family?
Yeah, that's something that I utilized in the past. I don't think about it as much anymore, but, talking to yourself.
Oh, boy.
You can be so hard on yourself. And if you can stop and notice, first of all, you have to notice that you're doing it. And then ask yourself, well, if I was my best friend, would I say these things to my best friend? What would I say to her or him? And then you can start to change up that internal conversation.
That's a very good point, too. I am very guilty of that when I'm working. Usually I work alone, and when I'm working, God, you stupid. I wouldn't say that to anybody else.
No.
If they did something wrong, you'd just kind of go, oh, well, let's just fix that. But I'm hard on myself in that way.
Oh, okay. Let's get you to turn that around there, Paul.
Yeah.
Next time you talk to yourself like that, have a talking with yourself.
I'll go
Talk to yourself about that. Say, hey, Paul, knock it off.
Would you? And there was one time when I had a kind of a global amnesia attack, and I couldn't remember what I was talking to myself about. That was... Yeah. So this, do you treat yourself as well as you treat your friends and family? Very important. That simple question is the basis for a burgeoning new area of psychological research called self-compassion, how kindly people view themselves. People who find it easy to be supportive and understanding to others, it turns out, often score surprisingly low on self-compassion tests. Yeah.
Interesting.
Like berating themselves for perceived failures, like being overweight or not exercising.
Well, it's all glyphosate's fault. I blame everything on glyphosate
it's
lately.
Monsanto.
Yeah.
Those people.
Well, culturally we can, get messages that can cause us to think less of ourselves, but we have to be mindful of that too, that's outside of us. It might be true for someone. It doesn't have to be true for me.
Right. And there's that, and part of that not recognizing that is also it's too big for me to be worried about. Right? There's nothing I can do about it because I'm not perfect enough to do anything about it. Well, you don't have to be. You just need to
perfectly
get out
imperfect
and do things. Do things.
Enjoy your life.
Enjoy your life.
Yes.
And I would say that was a very enjoyable almost hour.
Okay.
This has been Let's Talk. Thank you to all our callers and listeners, and for tuning in and for calling in. Your voice really matters, especially when there's only two of us in the studio. And KWMR does not take a stand on any of the issues discussed on Let's Talk. Opinions expressed on this program are those of the hosts and callers and don't necessarily reflect the views of KWMR, its board of directors, underwriters, or members. And every Thursday we're here 11 a.m. and next week we'll be back with something else.
Yes, and we'll be so excited when you call in.
Yes, do call in next week. And we're archived online at kwmr.org for a couple of weeks and also on YouTube. Let's Talk KWMR.
Fabulous.
Okay, everybody.
And we will see you next week right here at KWMR.
Yeah.